Hi everyone, my name is Wasianiverson. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a player who won the Set A mid-set finale, I've hit rank 1 on the NA ladder, and I also played at Set A Worlds. Today I'm going to be talking about how to reroll 1 cost, and specifically I'm not going to be telling you what the best rerolls are, but instead I'm going to talk about the concept of rerolling a 1 cost and how you should optimize it. So this video is going to be applicable to rerolling any 1 cost carry, unless there are major changes to the early game. Now, why am I making this video? Well, on the Set 9 PvE, there's been XP changes to make it more expensive to go to levels 6, 7, 8, and 9. And these XP changes are going to make it a lot harder to play around higher cost, like 4 and 5 cost carries, which is going to make rerolling much more of an effective strategy. Also, in the set, I think there's a lot of potential 1 cost rerolls. For example, we have Viego reroll, Shurima reroll, Void reroll, Ionia reroll, Samira reroll, Kayle reroll, Yordles. Not all of these rerolls are going to be effective at once, but depending on the patch, I think there will be a lot of potential for some good 1 cost rerolls in this set. Now, when should you think about playing a reroll? So first of all, you have to know which rerolls are good on a given patch. If a reroll is not viable, then it doesn't really matter how many copies of the unit you would have, but you really don't want to play that reroll. However, if you know that a reroll is viable, if you have 2 to 3 copies on stage 2-1, that's when you'd start to think about playing the reroll. If you have 4 or more copies and the reroll is viable, then I would probably go for it. And if you have less than 2 copies, then I would try not to play the reroll, although there's certain players who like to one-trick 1 cost reroll, and they can have success forcing it from any spot. Now, how are you going to play 1 cost reroll? So first of all, in stage 2, you never want to level. You're also going to play your strongest board for the first 3 to 4 rounds. If, after the first 3 to 4 rounds, you're on a loss streak, you're going to intentionally make your board weak to get a 5 loss streak for more gold. Else, if you won a round at some point along the way, you're just going to keep playing strongest board, and you're going to try and save as much HP as possible. On stage 3-1 after Krugs, this is where you're going to start rolling, and you're going to roll until 33 or 34 gold while buying all the units that you need. I'm sure a lot of you guys were wondering why this particular threshold of 33 to 34 gold. So first off, 3-1 is last round where you're going to be able to roll as level 4. Next turn you're going to be level 5 naturally, and you're going to have worse shop odds. If you have 33 gold, you're going to be able to have 33 and then 41 and then 50 gold compared to having 50 gold, 50 gold, 50 gold. So essentially you're only going to lose 3 gold by rolling to this amount of gold. Now we can compare the number of 1 costs that you see with each method. So method 1 is going to give 8.5 rolls with the 55% chance of 1 cost. So you're going to see on average 23 to 24 1 costs, whereas method 2 is going to give 10 rolls with a 45% chance of seeing 1 cost, so you're going to see 22 to 23 1 costs. So by utilizing this first method, you're going to see a greater number of 1 costs, and you're also going to see them faster, and having the upgrades is going to save you HP in those rounds. When do you keep rolling past 33 gold? If you can 3-star your carry, you should roll past 33 gold. So if you have 7 or more copies of your carry, you should definitely keep going, because at 7 copies, you're going to 3-star your carry 80% of the time around. With 6 copies of your carry, this one becomes kind of personal preference, but personally I like to roll. I think you'll hit around 60% of the time, and I think it's worth it to keep going and try and 3-star your carry. With 5 or less copies of your carry, you should definitely stop. You're going to miss more than 70% of the time, and you should just keep playing as normal and econ it back up to 50. If you had 6 or more copies and you rolled and you missed your carry, what you're going to do from that spot is you're going to keep rolling to either 10 or 0 gold, until you hit, and that's just going to depend on how close you are. If anyone's wondering how I calculated these probabilities, I used a binomial distribution from Wolfram Alpha. It's approximate and doesn't take into account like buying other units on the roll down or like the champion pool, so the actual odds of hitting are going to be a bit lower, but it should be fairly accurate and give you a good idea of what your chances are of hitting. Also, if someone can let me know if I messed up somewhere, that would be helpful, but I think it should be pretty good. Let's say you had 5 copies or less and you chose to stop at 33 gold. What you're going to do is you're going to econ back up to 50 gold, and then you're just going to slow roll above 50 gold until either you hit your carry or until stage 4-1 arrives. By 4-1 arrives, by the time 4-1 arrives, you have to hit your carry. So on 4-1, you're going to do a big roll down until you hit. And if you somehow miss by that point, then I guess keep rolling 0, but your game is probably over. Now, how are you going to play out the rest of the game once you hit? So this is going to be comp specific, but I'll just talk about a little bit about a few scenarios. So if you're also rerolling 2 costs in the comp, then you want to go to level 6 and then you're going to start rerolling there, because that's going to give you the highest odds of hitting 2 cost units. If you're also rerolling 3 costs in the comp, then you're going to go to 7 and start rerolling there. It's going to give you the highest chance of hitting 3 cost units. And if you're not rerolling any other units other than your 1 cost carry, you're just going to push as many levels as possible, whether that's level 7, 8, or 9, and then you're just going to start rolling for 2-star, 3, 4, 5 cost units to fill out the rest of your board. To find the best continuation for a comp, you should use the stats website like tactics.tools, or you can also alternatively watch streamers play the comp, or find a guide that can tell you about how to play the comp later on once you hit. Lastly, I'll talk a bit about how to play contested. So it's a really complicated topic, but I would say the #1 rule of playing contested is to frequently scout your opponent and keep track of how many of each unit that you need that they have. 1 costs have a really big champion pool, and it can often support 2 players, so just because you're contested, it doesn't mean that one of you necessarily has to pivot. If your spot is good, and you'll probably hit anyways, even while contested, I would say don't pivot and keep playing as normal. That being said, if your spot is bad and you think that your opponent's spot is a lot better, then I would push levels and pivot, but keep in mind that in this scenario, you might be aiming for like a 4th, 5th, or a 6th place. One other thing that's good to keep in mind is if you were supposed to roll for 2 and 3 costs in your comp, but you're contested, it's often good to just hit your 1-star carry and then push as many levels as possible after you 3-star it. This section is not really going to be that specific, but playing contested is a really complicated topic, and it's going to vary a lot scenario by scenario. So as long as you keep in mind that you should scout frequently and know when to give up and push levels, you should be okay. Lastly, I think I talked about making a leveling and rolling guide, but I think I'm going to delay those until we see if these XP changes that have been implemented on PBE are going to stick around. That being said, my socials are going to be in the description, and thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll be back soon with another video. Bye.